Good morning. So far, pretty bad. Good morning. How's it going? I don't know why it's more awkward filming right now than it has been in the past. But anyways, just doing an update. I've been talking about when I do these YouTube videos, I'm going to be more organized. I've written 4 half-ass bullet points on here that I was like, oh, I like the idea of. I'm just repeating the same thing I always do. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I've been wanting to do more videos about the stuff that I've been working on and things. And I was hoping I'd set the camera up so you can see my desk. But you can't, or at least the desk that I'm borrowing. So I'm currently, I filmed something in Dublin. I haven't posted that yet, but I'm in England now. I've been traveling for about 4 months, I think. Japan to Australia, Australia to Dublin, Dublin to here. Oh no, a cat's gonna be meowing this whole time. It's been a noisy morning. Not a bad one. It's been a good morning, but it's been a morning of hearing people's jaws click as they eat, and children eating fruit in the kitchen, but you can hear it. Or somebody like going downstairs, or a dog smacking its mouth, a cat meowing. You know, I don't know if you ever, that doesn't really bother me, but sometimes you just get in those moods. Well, because I was writing this morning, I had my journal open. So this is my latest project, our latest piece of work that I've been working on for, Jesus, it must be about 5 months now if I've been traveling for 4. Oh, gross, it can't be that long because I haven't done that much on it. And I was working on that this morning, so that's the only reason when you're writing and you hear just these sounds, it drives you insane. But I've been kind of writing so I'm staying with friends right now. I have 2 friends here in England, and they have 2 boys, and they're super kind. I've known them for about 5 years, and they let me come here sometimes when I'm working on finishing a book or something, and they have a spare room that I use, and it's nice. So I've taken one of the boys' desks. I'm working on that. I'm writing on this right now. It's nice. I write here in the evenings, and then I write downstairs in the mornings before everybody gets up. But even when they get up, it's kind of nice. They just sit there, and when the boys are around, it's a bit noisier, but that's fine. If I need to be quiet, just come up here. Yeah, I've been drinking a lot of tea, but it's been good. So with this book I've been writing, it's a piece of fiction. And I've been wanting to document it and do a little vlog series. Vlog, gross word. And it's NaNoWriMo month this month. So I don't know if you know that, but it's pretty well known. But like I said, I don't know who's gonna watch this video. It's basically a month. It's kind of like Inktober, but for writing. It's a month where a lot of writers get together, and they either get together or hold each other accountable, or just you can do it independently, where you're just trying to write, I think 30,000 words in a month. Is it less than that? Is it 10,000 words? I forget how much. Might even be 50. It's someone basically trying to write almost a full, first draft in a month. I don't know how many. Well, I don't know what a first draft is. These aren't things that really I know a lot about. But I've known about it for years, and I've participated kind of in other years, but really half-assed. I always felt like I didn't fit in because it's a lot of young adult writers, YA writers, who participate. And so I've even been in part of a group before. I was living in a hostel in Rhode Island, and I would go to this group I think it was a couple times a week. And I was the only guy, not that it mattered, but I was the only one writing not fantasy or not something for teenagers. And so except for one other person, who I became friends with, which was nice. I don't know where she's at now, but that was nice. That was a nice little slice of life for a minute until I left. But anyways, I've returned to NaNoWriMo, which is a silly thing to say, but with this project that I'm working on, I'm trying to write this little novella. So only 100, 120 pages. But I am a bad writer. I mean, I'm an okay writer, but well, I'm better than I've ever been. At least there's that. I can truthfully say that for writing for a lot of my 20s, and then finding my voice, and then it's technically currently my job. I've got 2 poetry collections out there, and those are things I never thought would happen. And I don't know. I'd like to pursue this avenue, just to write this book and to feel good about it. That's all I want. It'd be nice if it does well, but I mostly just want it to be happy with it. And so the stage that I'm at is I've really gotten much better after failing for a couple of years of trying to write stuff that I wasn't really believing in and failing at it. I've kind of learned my rhythm quite a bit. This as a huge part of it. A lot of it would be, I used to sit on my computer and try and write on there, and I've realized is I need to write, unfortunately, by hand. And I've learned that, with writing poetry the last, handful of years, that I always write better, shorthand or basically with pen and paper, because every time I'm sitting on the screen, it always seems so stale and so lifeless, and really uninspiring. I only type on the computer if I'm writing a lot and it needs to be, I already have the idea, it just needs to be edited and workshopped. Then it's great, then I need it because I need it for speed, and I need it to be a machine. But when I'm in a stage of still trying to figure things out, still trying to just, be inspired, it's 10 times better when I'm writing on the page. It's also something I can carry around with me everywhere. I can do it everywhere. I don't need electricity. I don't need battery. I don't need Wi-Fi. It can fit in my pocket half the time. And so that goes crazy far. I hope this is recording audio, by the way. If not, that's hilarious. Sorry, I was looking at something. We'll see if I edit that out. But so that's a huge thing. Writing on paper, crazy big help that I now know. Secondly, is I don't write. This isn't even stuff I wrote down. I'm actually happy at how. I feel like this video is going well so far, compared to my usual rambles. I don't know what I'm going to write when I sit down. Not quite I don't know if you know what a pantser is, but a pantser writer is someone like Stephen King, who doesn't, he gets an idea and he kind of just runs with it for 300 pages. I'm not exactly like that, where I usually will know the shape of the story before I sit down, but when I sit down, I'm no longer concerned with writing in order. I sit down and I kind of just, it's become more of escapism for me, where it's just, I sit down, I've fallen kind of in love with the character, or most of the setting, and so I love it's a very calming setting for me, and I love sitting in it and just being like, well, maybe this happens, or just like being with my characters in the morning, because I write every morning, sit down, and often, I'll write about their morning routines and things. So not being like, oh, I have to do this with the plot, or oh, they just got out of the car, now they have to go into the house. And it's like, no, I can skip forward 10 days if I want. And I used to have a really struggle with that. I think that's where I would bore myself, where I feel like I would have to physically move these characters from here to there. And I'm like, well, that's not how things work. That's not how it has to be. It also doesn't hurt that the characters are very much inspired by, like, it's not a fantasy or anything like that. They're very real to me. They're inspired by real people, not by real events necessarily, but just, it's set in a time when I was a kid. It's not me as a kid, but I draw on that quite a bit. And so it's really lovely for me to just sit down and be like, oh, well, I'll describe this house as if it was, my grandmother's or something. And it's great. I don't know. I love just like stepping back and being like, oh yeah, that is what it sounded like. And I can do that all day. And so I feel like that has given me quite a bit of strength and quite a bit of motivation that I haven't had with previous projects where I just bore myself to death, or I have a great beginning and I'm like, well, I don't know what happens next. And I'm so concerned with the plot that I'm just not putting any words down. This is the most I've written in this book. Is the most I've written ever for a piece of fiction, and it's all been done by hand, and so that feels really good. Oh, I'm really happy with it. I mean, I don't know. I'm really early in the stages, but I just am happy that since I've been in England, I've come here to finish this book, or at least to finish the first draft. And so it's nice. I write every morning, and my phone is off most of the day. That helps too. Luckily, I'm someone who has the time. That's a big part of it. Where, this is what I do. So it's nice that I can. I don't know. It's a whole thing. And I just got. When I was in Australia, I was touring and doing live poetry readings and stuff, and that was great. And I was hoping to write more, but I was so busy. And the weather was great, and something about being here all of a sudden in England, or even when I was in Ireland, and just there's an overcast every day and a little bit of rain, but not a lot. It's so beautiful where I am. I'm not someone who gets inspired by nature. A lot of people, I get a lot of inspiration from people, but something about climate, or about I guess the weather does play a role for me. That's why I have to write in the early mornings, because it's always gloomy and it's always just, I don't know, peaceful. I'm happy I'm doing this video. I'm really bad at doing them, and I would like to specifically do ones about writing this book more. Especially now I'm at a high point. I just got out of a little low point of being like, not writing a lot of it. Now it's back, and so it feels really good. Especially during this month. I was like, well, maybe this could be the month. Because 100 pages isn't a lot, but for me it is. That's usually, that's my two books are both very short. Even for reading, I got this for free the other day. This is Lord of the Rings in Ireland, because the store manager made a mistake and thought it was two people in a changing room when there's only supposed to be one, but I just had an extra pair of shoes next to me. So he was embarrassed because he was yelling at the door. And anyways, I grabbed this book and he said I could have it. Even reading that is a huge challenge for me. I mostly read. So this is, I got Claire Egan right here. I've read this book already, but I decided to buy a copy, and I got it in Ireland, because she's an Irish author. This is mostly what I read. Things like that, how many pages is this? Maybe I'll do 300 pages. But I got an audiobook it or something. I'm a shitty reader. But I've read more books this year than I've ever read in my life as well, so that feels really good. It's not a crazy amount, but it's way more than I thought I would have read. Compared to some people, it's not a lot, but it's a huge improvement. But now, unfortunately, as of this morning, I sat down to write, and it's an interesting point where I've been really enjoying writing for these characters, but I'm at the point where I still have plenty to say and plenty to write about for this story. I know the whole thing, I know what's going to happen, but when I was in Dublin, I go to art museums often when I'm in new cities, and they had a great museums there, and one of them had this selection of just a bunch of portraits, and there was this one of this old man. Actually, there's a couple of these old men, and I love paintings of old people. I don't know why, and it was just so moody, and I instantly had this idea, and I'm like, fuck. I can't afford that. That's what's usually my downfall when it comes to most of my ideas, is not finishing them before I get the next one. And that's where I'm at. I sat down this morning to write what I've been writing every day, and I couldn't get this other idea out of my head that's just been like, oh, that could be nice. It doesn't seem like something that I would even be, it's almost more, it's not fantasy. It would be if I took fantasy and combined it with my style, which is a little more slow, a little more melancholy and mundane is typically the stuff I write about. you know, and then, but if I met that with a bit of fantasy, and like really simple, like just a handful of characters, and I really like that idea, especially maybe because I am reading Lord of the Rings, which you do have to be selective when you're creating stuff, what you're intaking. I try to be specific sometimes with the movies I watch, or even I just finished the book Fight Club, and I could tell the next day when I was writing, my language was way different. It was sharper. It was quicker because that's how Chuck, the author of it, Chuck Palahniuk, I forget his last name. It's really hard to pronounce. That's how he writes. He writes like a punch. And so I try to read someone like Claire Keegan, who I love, who I feel like we write not similar, but we have similar tones, and similar interests in the things that we write. And so she inspires me in a really good way. I feel like she brings out the best in me, or the writer that I already am. I feel like she heightens that. Whereas reading Fight Club or something like that, it'll bring out different parts of me that I enjoy, but aren't my voice when it comes to my literary voice, specifically. So yeah, you gotta be careful. So now I'm reading The Lord of the Rings, and it's the most I've enjoyed this book ever too. It's very silly, which I enjoy. Or it's silly to be reading a page. I'm just starting it. I'm like 3 days in, and it's just crazy. It's just how whimsical it is, and just how much I always tease Tolkien, because I love the movies, but I've only read, I think, The Hobbit. But my friends have all read the books, and we usually joke about how in detail he gets. But it's so funny reading and just hearing how casually he'll just drop someone's family lineage. It's very in depth. That's not me at all. I'm not a world builder. I'm not someone who's, if I write the other fantasy book, it's not going to be, a brick. It's not going to be like Son of Abathorpe, or anything like that. It's just going to be what you're going to. Usually, I write what you see is what you get. There's maybe a little bit of back, but and I don't even know the backstory of that. I prefer, the canvas to be partially blank, because one, that's just my taste. That's just what I enjoy. But also because I don't know if anybody ever saw the Han Solo movie, the spin-off that they did, the origin. I was not interested in that, and I knew I wasn't going to be interested in that. Is because a lot of characters or stories, a part of the allure is you don't know anything about them. It's part of the allure of, like, the first Joker did pull it off, mostly because I think they do the Joker movies all the time, and so none of it's canon, but it's not canon. But with the Han Solo movie, it's like, I don't want to know how he meets Chewbacca. I don't want to know the deal if he has something with his parents, or how he became the way he is, because the second I know, then all other preconceived or ideas that I've had are now crushed. Even if I didn't have ideas, the second it becomes canon or becomes fact or whatever, it ruins the fun. It takes the imagination out of it, and that's why a lot of these origins or backstories suck. I was thinking about that recently with the Peaky Blinders. What's the character's name? Alfie, that Tom Hardy plays. Great character, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to watch a limited series off that character. But that'd be almost impossible to pull off, because I was like, well, I don't want to know how he got to where he was, because it wouldn't be as satisfying as the mystery of me thinking, like, oh, he probably, you know what I mean? Even if I don't have a specific image in my head, the second that's taken away from the reader or the viewer, you really got to have something pretty creative or pretty strong to back it up. And most of the time they don't. Most of the time it's not very satisfying. Once they try to find answers to these, especially because they're putting answers to questions, because they're following people have questions about these characters, and they're like, oh, I'll make answers for you, as opposed to them already having answers to start with. That doesn't make sense. It makes sense, but technically not with writing. Usually that's what they do anyways. But basically, long story short, I'm not a big backstory person. I enjoy just characters at face value, Claire, actually, Keegan does a really good job. She has backstory and small things like these, and she sprinkles it in there, oh, so nicely. And I guess I'm doing the same with this book, where her childhood, the main character's childhood, does come up, but it's not a childhood I've got ironed out. I don't have a sheet of paper written somewhere of like, oh, she was this in school and she was that. I have vague ideas, but the characters are, even though I know them, I don't know, they're still strangers to me, I guess. And some writers would agree with that. Some, I think most wouldn't, maybe. This is the most I've enjoyed the escapism of it. I think that's why a lot of writers do enjoy what they do, and the world building is because they enjoy building up these monuments. But I really enjoy just simple stuff. That's really tasty. That's really tasty writing to me. Just anyways, but yeah. So yeah, I just want to do that update. That's where I'm at. I'm writing. I don't know how I'm going to get past this, having this other idea be present now, because it's all I thought about this morning, and I just have these colors in my mind, this tone, and I've started writing in the way back of my journal now. I started making notes. I'm like, oh, don't forget that, or like maybe I can take that other idea I had last year and I can put that into here, and that idea can live. And it's very tempting. I think this happens a lot when you're in the midst of a project, or you're working on something, and all of a sudden you start to doubt yourself and you start to get different ideas, and you start to be like, well, maybe that, because every time you get a new idea, it's exciting and it's brand new. It's, I think people get like that with relationships sometimes, where you see that and you instantly will fill in all the blanks of like, oh, this idea has what this idea lacks, and maybe I'm becoming unhappy with this idea, and so I should move over to that one because it could have it all and all these things. But then you're just starting over, and you're starting from scratch, and you're also feeding that part of you that's starting projects and not completing them. I know that's a rough thing with me, where I'm constantly, I've got so many starts, and it makes me feel like I'm spread out. It feels like my ideas are just, it just feels like I'm doing the splits. And that's tricky. That's really tricky when you're trying to create something. There's a confidence that you have to have with it, and it almost has to be a blind, dumb confidence that you can even do it. Sorry, my nose has been itchy for 6 years. And so that's what I'm going to have to tackle with, is I really just want to, right now, just write this idea that it's new and I'm working on it. And I know you'll see some writers who will write 2 books at the same time, which blows my mind. And a part of me then, well, maybe that's the wrong blind confidence, or part of me is like, well, maybe I could do that. Because both my books everything I write is so small and so simple. That part of me is like, well, maybe I could do that, but especially because the tone would be similar. I don't know. But I don't want to attempt that, especially because I haven't finished a large piece of fiction like this before, and it's so important to me to finish it, and to get it out there and do that whole deal. So it's tricky. Yeah, definitely. I'm being seduced by this new idea that's all of a sudden seems very much like me, and seems like, oh no, that's what I should be writing. Yeah, it's hard to move past that, so I'm curious. I don't know what you would think about how to be I'm still very much inspired with this idea, which is nice. But all of a sudden now it seems so plain. All of a sudden I'm looking at this other idea that has some minor fantastical elements, and I'm like, oh, that seems really fun. It's probably from reading Lord of the Rings. I'm like, oh, that could be a great, especially, or even having these paintings in my mind that I saw and I took photos of. And I was like, oh, I just love that. And no longer being limited by real life, being like, oh, sweet, I can just mess around with magic, and then all of a sudden it sounds really tasty. Because when I was a kid, that's what I thought I would create. It would be fantastical things. That's what I would write in elementary school. It would always be something just normal, and then it would get surreal. It would get, yeah, not, it wasn't quite fantasy, but it wasn't, dragons or things like that, but it would be, something of like, I'm trying to remember a few of them. I remember there's something with this kid had like these shoes. It sounds dumb now, but they were like, I don't know, basically where the laws of the real world don't exist. And so it just sounds so tasty to write there right now. And I think a lot of people would, let's say I was talking to a friend right now, they might be like, you should write what you're excited to write about. And I'm excited to write for them both, but that's the danger of it. It's like, now I have to do the legwork on this other book, and I have to find a way to be re-inspired by it. And I still am, but you know what I mean? The same that I'm feeling with this new one, which is just a dumb idea. But I love the beginning process so much. I love getting an idea and going on a long walk and being like, I could do that, or we could do, I was like, oh, could this be piecing it together, writing things down. Everything is so exciting at the beginning. So yeah, we'll see. A part of me is like, I could do a mood board. I could sketch my current characters. I can go back and read the stuff I've read. Hopefully that would help. That wouldn't deteriorate me. Maybe that would actually re-inspire, be like, oh, this is, because I know what I've written in the last few days has been felt really good. Not to toot my own horn, but like really good by my standards, really good. I felt some pride with it. Normally I don't like going back and reading it right away, because sometimes I'm wrong. But it felt good because it was very natural, and it felt like my voice was there, which is all I care about. I don't know how well it reads, but writing-wise, it felt just good to put that on paper. It was efficient, but not boring, and yeah, I enjoyed that. Damn, I shouldn't try, because what if I indulge and I'm just like, I'll just write a page, or I'll just keep thinking about this other idea and see if I can create it, and pretend like, oh yeah, I have the mental real estate to handle a couple of different ideas, and this one's already all formed, so I don't need to, it's mostly formed. There's always room for, I had an idea this morning that was completely different on how it might end. So maybe I don't have the mental real estate for that. Plus I'm doing then content on Instagram and all those things that is kind of flopping right now. So I should be giving that my attention. Hopefully this mic is picking this up. I'm borrowing my friend's mic. But I don't know if you guys are writing anything right now, but we'll see. We'll see what the month brings. It should be a good month. I'm excited for it. Hopefully I'll do a video like this at least once a week. A little recap. I can talk more about, I've been reading The Lord of the Rings. There's a pub right down here. You just walk down this pub, and it's candlelit, and it's just like this little hovel, and a couple of people, and everyone's talking, but it's still somehow quiet, and I'll have to get some footage of it for sure. It's crazy, this how cozy this village is. It's really insane. I visit here more often than I think I visit anywhere, and yeah, I'm really grateful for it. Especially now, I get more and more comfortable, each time, and my friends don't make me feel like a guest. I see them, we hang out every day, we have dinner every night. They know I go away and I write for a lot of the day. Yeah, like I said, I keep my phone off, I'll go on long walks. It's a really great environment, and so now I usually have a hard time writing around people, but now I come up here and I write. I'm downstairs, I'm writing as they're cleaning, or as they're, getting their kids ready for rugby, or whatever it is, and I'll participate, and I help, around the house and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, it's a great environment, so I'm grateful for that. And I came here to finish this book, to write, and the space is here, so I'd like to see it happen. Yeah, and I forgot about the NaNoWriMo thing, the national, what is it, national novel writing, National Novel Writing Month. That makes sense. yeah, I don't know, so hopefully you guys will join in on that if you'd like. I should post about it on my Instagram as well. But anyways, we'll see. Thanks for listening to this today, and yeah, I'll try to talk more about the book later. I definitely have things I could say about it. There's that cat. But yeah, take it easy.